When I met with JC, what I think is interesting, at least for me, on a personal level, is that it was just one of those rare situations where you go on vibe and instinct, and you put yourself very quickly in the hands of somebody else because you trust them. And I think the word is trust. And when I got the script from JC, it had a lot of things that I was very impressed with and attracted to. There was no dialogue, it was bold, but it also was detailed in a way that I felt this person really knew what they were doing, and they had a very firm grip on their vision, and there was a very strong vision. So when we met, I was already inclined, I just needed to know he wasn't nuts. So when we got together, for me anyway, it was very quick. It was like, okay, you're very detailed in your description. There's only 31 pages, that's great. What's on the 31 pages is very well defined, that's great. Suggesting that you have a very strong vision, and I'm attracted to that. Being alone, with no filter of dialogue. As an actor, I guess, the idea that attracted to me was that you could be completely absorbed in your character and hope that the silence would allow the audience to come in with you and be part of your experience. This all happened really quickly. We didn't have a lot to say to each other because I was inclined to go with it and trust him, and I'm glad I did.
There was something in this story that drew him. I walked into his office prepared to make a very in-depth presentation on why he should do the film, and as you could probably tell, he always teased me. He says, for a guy who wrote a movie with no words in it, you sure talk a lot, is what he always used to tease me. But I came into his office sort of ready to tell him all of this, and it really was probably 10 minutes, maybe not even, into this meeting that was a little overwhelming for me, and he just sort of looked at me and he literally said, I just wanted to make sure you weren't, a little crazy. This is kind of an out there idea, but it seems like you've thought this through. And he literally looked around and, patted his knees and said, well, let's do this. And I'm sitting, in Robert Redford's office, and, there was, from that moment forward, literally, he, it was like there was this trust that was, I don't quite know, where that came from, but, it was a pretty unbelievable process that he had the confidence in the entire undertaking to just jump like that.
All I did not know JC. I only knew him from a film that we had premiered at our festival Sunday, Margin Call, which I really liked. That's all I knew. I didn't know him.
Margin Call hadn't come out yet. I mean, this was a month after Margin Call premiered at Sundance, so he's making these decisions, and my film was my first film was well received at Margin Call, but at Sundance, but it certainly wasn't this roaring success or anything. It hadn't kind of built any of that momentum, and there was just something in this idea that he obviously was drawn to.
I grew up in Santa Monica, California, as a kid, and grew up in a lower working class situation, neighborhood, family, and so the nearest thing to recreation for me was the ocean, because that was nearby, so I spent a lot of time in the water as a kid, surfing, but the time I spent in the water was near the shore. It was surfing or swimming in the ocean or riding waves, but not in the deep sea. And I remember as a little kid, in between going in and out of the water, I would look out. I was 9, 10 years old. I would look out, and I saw the vast expanse of the sea, and I was hit by how vast it was and what's out there. This is just a big, it's a lot of water beyond what I'm messing around with. And then I thought, I guess if you keep going, you would go to Japan. And that really got me, the size of the ocean in my head. And then when you're out on the water, what hit me while we were working, and I had asked JC when we were preparing, because it was so finely written, it was so sharply detailed, the script, I said, you know, so much of it is storm, so much of it is going to just have to be dealing and grappling with the physical part of the storm. Can we at least have some moments to think, where there's just a moment, there's an impasse or a respite where the character has a moment to just look out and think or just be. In my head was returning to that vast expanse of ocean, as far as you could see. It was endless. And it was horizon endless, but what was underneath you was a vast depth of miles and miles of deep, deep sea. And what did it feel like to be in the middle of almost nowhere, in the middle of the Indian Ocean, on a boat where you look and see the vastness of space and the horizon line, and then miles of water underneath you, and just you. And it was like food for thought. JC and the crew had been there and done such a fine job of prepping that with such a low budget, as it is an independent film in a sense, very low budget, which means very little time. They were so well prepared, it was just a ready-to-go situation. All I had to do, which was actually helpful as the actor, was just be in it and go with what came. So no, there was not a lot of research.
He's being a little humble. He's in amazing shape in his normal life, and he swims constantly. So he came into it, you know, it's not like he had to train it. I think it's what he does in his normal life. So he was in his swimming, all of that swimming, almost, I think there was one shot in the entire film that isn't him, and that is one that is dreadfully dangerous, and the stunt guy shouldn't even have been doing probably, but everything else in water is him. And it's, you know, that was something I wasn't expecting, but he's a wonderful swimmer and comfortable in these claustrophobic kind of, I mean, you know, some of the conditions, we were in these boats.
I think I was comfortable.
Yes. He's a good actor. But it was, you know, most people would have probably excused themselves from some of the especially once we started getting into with all the detritus and the, you know, the very swimming through that mast and everything. That, you know, is far more than I ever thought I was going to get.